Have you ever stared at the ceiling at night, asking yourself, why did this have to happen to me? That heartbreak, that betrayal, that dream slipping through your fingers. It can feel so cruel, so personal. But let me tell you something that could change the way you see everything that's ever broken your heart or shaken your confidence. Nothing in your life has been random. Everything, yes, everything, happens for a reason. And once you understand this, your pain doesn't just have a purpose, it becomes your power. When life hands us pain, our first instinct is to fight it. We push it away, numb it, distract ourselves with busyness, with people, with anything that helps us avoid sitting with it. Because pain feels like an enemy. It feels like a punishment, like some cruel twist of fate designed specifically to break us. But what if it's not? What if pain was never your enemy, but your greatest, albeit harsh, teacher? What if it's a message that keeps arriving, not to hurt you, but to awaken something in you that you've ignored for far too long? You see, every time your heart has been broken, every time you felt abandoned, overlooked, or rejected, pain has stepped in not to destroy your spirit, but to show you the parts of yourself that are still tender, still unhealed, still vulnerable. But we don't like seeing those parts, do we? We'd rather pretend we've moved on, that we're stronger, that it didn't really affect us. Yet there we are, lying awake at night, replaying that conversation, that betrayal, that moment where everything changed. Pain shows up because you matter. Because your heart, your worth, your life matters. If it didn't, you wouldn't feel anything at all. Numbness is the true enemy because it means we've given up trying. But pain is proof that your soul is still reaching, still trying to guide you towards something better, even if it feels unbearable in the moment. Think about it. The last time someone treated you poorly and you felt devastated, wasn't there also a whisper in your mind, a flicker of realization that said, I deserved more than that? That whisper, that's the message pain is trying to deliver. It's showing you where your boundaries should have been firmer, where your standards should have been higher, where your self-respect should have stood taller. But instead of listening, we sometimes drown it out. We chase the wrong people, we justify their behavior, we rewrite our standards to accommodate their inadequacies. Pain doesn't let us get away with that for long. It lingers. It repeats. Because it wants us to learn, to pause, to reflect, to grow. Every pang of heartache is life urging you to see yourself differently. To see yourself not as someone discarded or forgotten, but as someone worthy of better. But better doesn't come to those who refuse to learn from their wounds. Better comes to those who let their wounds speak, who sit with the discomfort long enough to hear what it's trying to say. And here's the thing. Pain will speak louder and louder until you're forced to listen. Have you ever noticed that the same type of heartbreak, the same type of disappointment keeps showing up in your life? Different faces, same feelings. That's not coincidence. That's life turning up the volume on the lesson you're trying to avoid. It's saying, until you choose to value yourself, you will keep encountering people who don't. Until you learn that your peace isn't worth trading for someone else's validation, you'll keep feeling lost in the wrong relationships. Pain is the messenger that says, you're not living up to your potential. You're settling. You're betraying yourself in small ways, every day. And life can't let that slide. Not because it's punishing you, but because it's protecting the version of you that you haven't met yet. The stronger, wiser, more confident version of you who doesn't shrink for anyone, who doesn't abandon their needs to be liked, who doesn't stay silent when they deserve to be heard. It's easy to feel like a victim of pain, but what if, just what if, you saw it as your most relentless coach? The one who refuses to let you quit on yourself. That sting in your chest, that knot in your stomach, that ache of loneliness, it's not there to keep you down. It's there to remind you that you deserve to rise. And rejection? That one stings the most, doesn't it? When someone walks away, when they choose someone else, when they tell you, in words or actions, that you're not what they want. It's hard not to internalize that. It's hard not to make it about your value, your desirability, your enoughness. But here's the truth you have to let sink in. Rejection is not the universe saying you're unworthy. It's the universe saying wrong direction. Imagine if every person who ever rejected you had said yes. where would you be right now? Would you be happy? Or would you be stuck in a version of your life that was a poor reflection of your worth? Rejection feels brutal in the moment, but it's redirection wrapped in disguise. It's life pulling you by the hand and saying, there is something better, but you can't find it if you're busy chasing the wrong thing. We don't often see it that way because we're wired to want immediate validation. We want people to choose us because that feels like confirmation that we're good enough. But imagine a life where your value wasn't up for debate, where you didn't need someone else's acceptance to believe in your own worth. Rejection wouldn't feel like a death sentence. It would feel like clarity, like a filter that spares you from investing time, energy, love in someone who could never see the full brilliance of who you are. What's more dangerous than rejection is staying where you're not wanted, trying to prove your worth to someone who's already decided to look past you. That's where the real heartbreak lives, not in the leaving, but in the lingering. Every time you beg to be chosen, you're rejecting yourself. And life, in its own way, is trying to stop you from continuing that self-betrayal. So the next time you're rejected, I want you to pause and ask, what am I being redirected toward? Instead of seeing it as evidence of your inadequacy, see it as life sparing you from another detour. Trust that not getting what you wanted is often the biggest protection you'll never fully understand in the moment. But one day, when you're standing in the place you were meant to be, surrounded by people who truly see you, you'll look back and thank every rejection that saved you from staying stuck. We all crave comfort. It's human nature to seek the familiar, the predictable, the things that keep us safe, that protect us from risk, from disappointment, from the sting of failure. But if there's one thing life has shown time and time again, it's that nothing extraordinary ever grows in comfort. Comfort zones might feel warm and secure, but they're also stagnant. They're where dreams quietly suffocate and where potential goes to sleep. And yet, we cling to them because growth feels like pain. It feels like uncertainty, like stretching yourself into shapes you're not used to, like standing alone when you'd rather have someone next to you, even if that someone is wrong for you. The irony is that the very discomfort we avoid is the space where we become who we're meant to be. Growth doesn't happen in the easy moments, in the moments where everything is going right. Growth happens in the cracks, when life feels like it's crumbling around you, when you're forced to question everything you believed about yourself, about love, about your path. It happens when you're sitting alone on a Friday night, thinking about the person who left, wondering why you weren't enough. It happens when you lose the job, when the friendship fades, when the plan you thought was certain suddenly disappears. And in those moments, it's easy to feel like life is against you. To think, why me? Why now? But what if instead you asked yourself, what is this making space for? What part of me is being forged in this fire? Because that's what discomfort is. It's the fire that burns away the parts of you that aren't serving your next chapter. The parts of you that settle, that stay quiet when your soul is screaming, that accept less because more feels too scary. Think back to the toughest period of your life, the one you thought would break you. Did it? Or did it reveal a strength you didn't know you had? Did it teach you how to stand on your own, how to choose yourself, how to stop relying on temporary fixes to fill permanent voids? We don't like discomfort because it exposes our illusions. It forces us to see the relationships that were built on convenience instead of connection, the jobs that drained us instead of fulfilling us, the habits that numbed us instead of nourishing us. Discomfort is brutally honest. It strips away the facades and shows us where we've been lying to ourselves. But here's the beautiful truth. If you can sit in that discomfort, if you can resist the urge to escape it with distractions or rebounds or denial, you'll emerge on the other side transformed. Not because the pain itself is noble, but because of what you learn in the process. You learn that your worth isn't dependent on someone else staying. You learn that you're capable of creating happiness that isn't borrowed from another person's attention. You learn that the life you want is waiting just beyond the fear you've been unwilling to face. Yet, the catch is that life won't stop challenging you until you get that message. It's not a one-time deal. If you refuse to grow, if you retreat back into comfort, life will send you another lesson, another jolt of discomfort, because you're not meant to stay the same. And that leads us to the patterns that keep repeating, the déjà vu moments of our own pain stories. Have you ever noticed that the same kind of relationship keeps showing up in your life? Maybe it's different faces, but the same dynamics. The same arguments, the same disappointments, the same ache that makes you feel unseen, unimportant, or unchosen. That isn't coincidence. Life has a way of recycling the same lesson until you finally sit down and say, "What is this trying to teach me?" Because until you do, you're destined to replay the same script with new characters. You can leave the relationship, but if you don't heal the part of you that allowed it to thrive in the first place, you'll find yourself in another just like it. Different name, same emptiness. That's why people say, "Why does this always happen to me?" As if life is conspiring against them. But life isn't punishing you, it's reflecting you. It's holding up a mirror to the beliefs you carry about yourself. If you believe deep down that you're only worthy of conditional love, that's the kind of love you'll unconsciously seek out. If you believe that your voice doesn't matter, you'll attract people who confirm that belief by ignoring it. Patterns persist because unlearned lessons linger. And the sooner you become aware of that, the sooner you can break the cycle. But breaking it isn't easy. It means facing uncomfortable truths about yourself. It means asking, why do I tolerate less? Why do I stay when I'm unhappy? Why do I keep quiet when I should speak up? Those questions are hard. They make you confront the parts of yourself you'd rather keep hidden. But they're necessary, because the moment you answer them, you reclaim your power. You start to see that you're not a victim of your circumstances. You're a participant in them. And that realization, it changes everything. Suddenly, you're no longer waiting for someone else to choose you, to validate you, to complete you. You start choosing yourself. You start setting boundaries that protect your peace. You start recognizing red flags not as challenges to overcome, but as reasons to walk away. Life stops repeating the same painful patterns when you finally learn the lesson it's trying to teach. When you stand up and say, "I've seen this story before, and this time, I'm writing a different ending." That's growth. That's power. And it all begins the moment you decide that comfort is no longer worth the cost of staying stuck. We don't talk enough about the emptiness that follows loss. Whether it's the loss of a relationship, a job, a dream you'd been holding on to for years, there's this hollow space left behind. A space that feels unbearable at first, like an ache you can't soothe, a silence that's too loud. We mourn what's gone, what's been taken from us, and we convince ourselves that nothing will ever fill that void. That it was too special, too significant, too intertwined with who we are. But what if that emptiness isn't a cruel joke life is playing on you? What if it's intentional? What if it's necessary? Loss isn't just about the absence of something or someone. It's about clearing space. And that space is essential. Because when we're too full of distractions, of the wrong relationships, of jobs that don't fulfill us, we have no room left for what's actually meant for us. Life sometimes has to forcefully empty our hands because we're too afraid to let go on our own. We cling to familiarity, even when it's hurting us, even when it's draining us, because the unknown feels far scarier than the misery we've made peace with. But life knows what it's doing when it removes. It's making room. We don't see it immediately because all we feel is the sting of what's missing. We focus on the vacancy, not the opportunity. But think about it. How many times in your life has the thing you thought you couldn't live without actually made way for something far better? Something you never would have reached for if your hands weren't forced to open. Loss is brutal, but it's also purposeful. It strips away the noise, the clutter, the illusions, and it gives you a clean slate. A painful, uncomfortable, but necessary clean slate. When that relationship ended, yes, it broke you, but it also broke the version of you that settled for less than what you deserved. That job you lost. Maybe it was your identity for years, but it was also your cage. That dream that slipped away? Perhaps it was never really your dream to begin with. It was someone else's expectation you mistook for your own. And in that emptiness, you're invited to ask the deeper questions. Who am I now? What do I want? What have I been ignoring because I was too busy holding on to the wrong things? That space is fertile ground. It's the soil where new desires can be planted, where new standards can take root. But only if you resist the urge to fill it with more of the same. That's the mistake so many of us make. We can't sit with emptiness, so we rush to fill it. We jump into the next relationship, the next job, the next distraction, and we end up in the same patterns, the same dissatisfaction, because we never gave ourselves the time to figure out what we actually need, not just what we want to replace. And here's where it gets even more powerful. Your pain, your loss, your heartbreak, it's not just for you. That might sound strange, but hear me out. Every time you survive something you thought would break you, you're gaining a wisdom that can guide someone else. That ache you're feeling, that confusion you're navigating, it's equipping you. You're building a survival guide you didn't ask for, but one day, someone will need it. Someone will need to hear how you got through it, how you found your footing again, how you rebuilt when you thought everything was lost. We often think our stories don't matter because they're messy, imperfect, unfinished. But those are the stories that resonate the most. No one connects with perfection. They connect with authenticity. When you're honest about your pain, about the lessons you've learned the hard way, you become a lighthouse for someone else who's still lost in the storm. You show them that it's survivable, that there's life on the other side of loss, that emptiness doesn't have to stay empty forever. You might not feel it now, but your journey, the heartbreaks, the disappointments, the things that didn't work out, they're all shaping you into someone who can stand up one day and say, I've been where you are. I know that pain. And I promise you, it doesn't end here. That's the power of your pain. It becomes someone else's hope. But only if you let it teach you. Only if you sit with it long enough to understand it, instead of burying it under distractions and noise. We all want shortcuts. We want the fast-forward button through the hard parts. But the depth of your growth is directly linked to the depth of your discomfort. The people who inspire us, who move us, they've been through something. They've suffered, they've struggled, and they've come out with scars that tell a story. And you, whether you realize it yet or not, are building that story right now. So don't despise the emptiness. Don't fear it. See it for what it is, space. Space that's clearing out the old, so the new can finally arrive. And know that in every painful chapter, you're collecting the wisdom that someone else will need one day. That's not just growth, that's legacy. When you're in the middle of the storm, nothing makes sense. Everything feels chaotic, unfair, overwhelming. You're standing in the wreckage of what you thought your life would be, trying to make sense of how it all unraveled so quickly. And in those moments, your mind plays tricks on you. It tells you that this is permanent, that this pain is forever, that the life you dreamed of is now out of reach. But that's the lie we believe when we're too close to the chaos. That's the danger of being stuck inside the moment. We forget that the story isn't finished yet. Perspective is everything. It's the one thing that can turn a breakdown into a breakthrough. But you only gain perspective with time and reflection. And when you're hurting, time feels like an enemy. It feels slow, heavy, unkind. You want answers now, you want clarity now, you want relief now. But life doesn't work that way. Life reveals meaning in layers. You won't always see why something had to happen when you're still bleeding from it. Sometimes you only understand the purpose of your pain months later, years later, when you're standing somewhere new, somewhere better, and you can finally say, ah, that's why. But in the moment, in the eye of the storm, the only question that keeps you sane is not why is this happening to me, but what is this preparing me for? That question shifts your focus. It moves you from victimhood to empowerment. It turns life from this cruel, random game into something more intentional, more purposeful. When you ask what you're being prepared for, you stop looking at the situation as the end of the road and start seeing it as training ground. Because here's the truth. Life will only ever give you the level of challenge that matches the next level of who you're supposed to become. If you're experiencing something that feels bigger than you, it's because life knows there's a bigger you waiting to come alive. And that version of you can't exist without this experience. Without the lessons, the resilience, the deeper self-awareness that only hardship can teach. Perspective reminds you that not everything that hurts you is meant to harm you. Some things hurt because they're meant to wake you up. They're meant to shake you out of complacency, to rattle the cages you've built around yourself with comfort and familiarity. The pain of betrayal, the disappointment of failure, the ache of rejection, it all feels like life is against you. But what if life is actually conspiring for you, removing what doesn't align with your true path? What if that person leaving wasn't the universe abandoning you, but life clearing space for the person who will love you without condition, without games, without your having to prove your worth? We're so quick to judge moments as good or bad while we're in them. But perspective teaches you that life is more nuanced than that. Something can feel like the worst thing that's ever happened to you and still turn out to be the best thing for your growth. The problem is we only get that clarity in hindsight. That's why you have to hold on. That's why you can't make permanent decisions based on temporary emotions. Because the you of today doesn't see the full picture yet. But the you of tomorrow? They'll look back and understand exactly why it all had to happen the way it did. And all of this connects to one of the hardest truths we all have to face. You were never meant to stay the same. Life is in constant motion, and yet so many of us try to freeze ourselves in place. We cling to the version of ourselves that felt safe, that felt validated, that felt loved, even if that version wasn't truly happy. But life won't let you stay there. It keeps moving, with or without your permission. And if you refuse to evolve, life will evolve around you, dragging you forward whether you like it or not. Every challenge, every painful experience is life's way of reminding you, you're not done yet. There's more to you than what you've settled for. More strength, more wisdom, more depth. And the only way to access that next level is through evolution. Through shedding the old skin, the old beliefs, the old patterns. But shedding is uncomfortable. It means letting go of identities that no longer serve you. It means leaving behind relationships that once felt like home, but have now become prisons. It means outgrowing spaces that used to feel just right, but now feel suffocating. We resist this because we fear what we'll lose. We fear the loneliness of change, the uncertainty of stepping into the unknown. But what we should really fear is what happens if we don't change. If we stay stuck. If we keep reliving the same year over and over and calling it a life. Because there's nothing more tragic than a person who had the capacity to grow, but chose comfort instead. You weren't meant to be who you were 10 years ago. You weren't even meant to be who you were last year. Life is trying to introduce you to the next version of yourself. The one who loves herself more fiercely, who sets boundaries without apology, who doesn't shrink to make others comfortable, who knows her worth isn't up for negotiation. But you can't meet her if you're still clinging to the past. If you're still defining yourself by old wounds and outdated narratives. Change is scary. Growth is painful. But stagnation? That's a slow death of the soul. So the next time life shakes your foundation, the next time everything feels like it's falling apart, remember, you were never meant to stay the same. Life isn't punishing you. It's promoting you. It's pushing you to evolve, to expand, to become the version of yourself that was always waiting beneath the surface. And when you finally meet that version of you, you'll realize it was all worth it. Every tear, every doubt, every moment you thought you couldn't go on, it was all leading you here. So next time you find yourself asking, why did this happen to me? Pause. Breathe. Then ask yourself, what is this trying to teach me? Because the moment you see life through the lens of growth rather than grievance, you reclaim your power. Now, I'd love to hear from you. What has been that one life event that, looking back, had a reason far deeper than you realized at the time? Share it in the comments below. Your story could be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. If this message resonated with you, don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who needs this reminder, and subscribe for more conversations that heal, empower, and transform. And before you go, drop a comment with any topic you want me to cover next. Let's keep growing.